Dragon and Home, a sandbox MMORPG that was released the 20th of August in 2021. It seems to me to have been heavily inspired by Minecraft in its design, building style and some of the combat aspects as well. The in-game characters speak simplified Chinese, while the game's language is supposed to be English, and by the game's language they mean the subtitles and in-game text. There are character progression in the form of combat and crafting talents, so you could customize your character to your preferred combat style, be that magic, archery or melee combat. Or if you wanted to be a master smith, woodworker, farmer or chef. The game's focus lies on you being able to create your own city if you so wish. From level 4 and up, you are given an island for you to make your own. And this is where the most of the Minecraft inspiration can be felt in my eyes. I wish it was all good news regarding this, but I'll come back to the crafting and gathering in just a moment. But first, if you enjoyed the series so far, hit that subscribe button. It helps me out and it makes it easier for you to keep up with the series. You are the best. Thanks in advance. The character creation is simple. We have a few choices in each category. It didn't take long to have the character made, which may be a bad thing for some, but it didn't bother me as much considering the art style the game uses. When we entered the game with our newly created character, we were greeted by a dragon flying over us and an expression of either fright or anger. I can't really tell the difference. We were then nudged by a character that turns out to be our guide. A witch-looking character that gets offended by being associated with witches. That's a bit suspicious. She shows us the basics of what we need to know to get started in the game, and that apparently we are the chosen one. Not just that, we're also destined to be circus artists, it seems. Me and this other fella that just spawned in. Although, this is not an act I would pay to watch. Oh. Never mind, it seems that I was mistaken. We are shown the game's basic controls, like using double click of W to sprint and pressing shift to roll. And that's fair enough, although these keys are clunky and the exact opposite of what I was expecting. These are minor inconveniences, but still noteworthy. The game also features mounts. I did not get any in my game time, but I could see the menu for them, and I also could see the crafting items for how to get them eventually. The game is simple, and I didn't experience any systems or aspects about the game that was hard to understand. Questing were straightforward, and they did a good job of introducing the game's systems to me, which would make this game suitable for almost everyone, in my opinion. You could craft whatever you wanted, even if the items were required for quests later down the line. The only problem I had with one being able to do so is that the items should then count towards the actual completion of said quest. And in the first part of the game, the tutorial, they didn't count in this way, but they did count when you got to a later stage of the game. Then it even told you how you could make the item count. I just wish the same thing would have been done earlier. The crafting system is also easily understood. It's not very engaging, except maybe the cooking, which has some details to it that force you to engage with it so that food doesn't get burnt, which I like. I'm a huge fan of survival games and that kind of crafting, and in a way, that was sort of what I expected from this game. Don't ask me why I did, but that wasn't what I got, sadly. This game uses a one-click and instant craft system. When we're on the subject of crafting, the most logical aspect to speak of next would be the gathering. So let's be logical this time. The gathering is supposed to be competitive by nature, and therefore there are only a few resource nodes available of a certain material at one time in a given area. And the idea is nice, but there were not enough players for there to be any competition at all. And with the player count in mind, this turned out to be a negative in a few aspects. I'll come back to more specifics in just a moment. The game uses action combat as its combat style, and it works quite well. It's slow, but it suits the game in my opinion. It isn't too easy. By that I mean, you can't just go up to any mob you see and kill it just as you start the game. You have to gear up or be skilled enough at dodging the mob's attacks. I kinda tried this out a few times and died. There are a few different creatures at the starting island, and I like the way they're all animated. I didn't get the feeling of anything being out of place in this game. when it comes to the graphics. Now, back to the player count and it being a problem. Throughout the time I played, I met a total of 5 players. There was a few players talking in the global chat every now and then, but usually about things that didn't mean anything to me, so most likely endgame or late game stuff. The reason why I speak of this as a problem is because the game being created with a competitive economy system in mind, and resource spawns withheld for that same reason. I had problems with finding enough carrots in the wild for me to complete a quest I was on. It took me about 10 minutes to find 4 nodes of carrots, and they are not marked as rare in any way. That made me think about what could be the reason for this. And I took to Reddit and found the creator talking about what I just mentioned. So what I'm trying to say is that if you are designing something with competition in mind, you should have sort of a contingency plan if the game fails to deliver on what it's meant to deliver on. So for example, have a balanced amount of each resource out at any time. So when a node of carrots get harvested, another node pops up nearby. I don't mean that this should be a permanent feature from the start, but when and if you see your game not doing as well as you would have wanted it to, there should have been a plan B, just to make certain that the player that actually plays the game can still enjoy themselves. With all this in mind, I have to ask and answer the question: does this game make it onto my list of games that deserves a more in-depth playthrough? And sadly, it does not. But, and a big but at that, this is a game that can be very much enjoyed after a long day, where you just want to shut your brain off and delve into a game for a while. So if you're a fan of those kind of games, give this game a try and let me know what you thought of the Dragon and Home. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.